Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths, but you have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. This is episode 199, would you believe? We are going to head quickly and dramatically into episodes 200 and 201. Both of those will be released. One will be released on Christmas Day, one will be released on New Year's Day. If you are a Patreon member, you can hear the Christmas Day and the New Year's Day one at the same time, one after the other, because I'm going to release them as a double, because they were an interview with my friend Kevin Eustace from We Need to Talk About Ghosts and the Dark Paranormal, and about music and my influences and how he influenced me and got me doing what I'm doing, and the local scene in Liverpool and so on and so forth, including ghouls and spectres and ghosts, as you'd expect. And so that's a 2-hour chat broken into 2 1-hour episodes. So please do go over to Patreon, sign up for $2 a month, and you'll get ad-free feeds, but you also get some early release stuff as well. But I've got this really weird echo in my headphones, and I don't know why. It's not coming across in the mix, but it's really bugging me, I can tell you. It just is. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, that's my issue. So, this week's episode is going to be the last album review of the year. And it's going to be a relatively quick album review because I want to talk about the scene of which it's coming from. And I've talked about it before, but I want to tap into it. So, the album is Long Live the Rot by RotPit from Germany/Sweden. With Ralph Halbert on vocals, as a friend of mine, and we'll talk about that in the second part of the show. But I was chatting to him, and he was saying that this is the most extreme he's ever produced as a vocalist, and he works, as you would probably know if you've listened to the show, with one of my favourite bands of all, which is Heads for the Dead. But this is one of his many side streams of creativity, and he was talking about how it's more extreme than ever, and then I was talking about it's going to do really well, and he said, I don't think so, there's a lot of noise out there at the moment. It seems to be overfilled in the extremity subgenre. And I had a real good think about that after I sort of told him, no, don't be silly, it's going to be amazing, as because it is. And I was thinking, is there an influx of extremity recently? And being someone who spends a lot of time filtering through bands that get sent to the email for review, you do find yourself going through several phases. It's either power metal, which is a lot of, or extreme. And sometimes I have to decline some of the extreme stuff that comes through because it's just so much of it. And there's only so much. There is a point where it becomes a little bit sort of a wall of noise, and people do want to hear other things. No, So not all extreme metal is death metal, not all death metal is extreme metal. There are many facets to the genre of extreme metal, as I've probably spoken to you before. I won't go into all of them right now because this album is a death metal album. So we're going to talk quick run back down through death metal. Okay, so it's been around since the sort of mid 80s. It's basically it comes from the influences of Venom, Celtic Frost, and bands like that, and Slayer. And bands were looking to be more extreme, faster, heavier. You know, Metallica was there, Anthrax was there, and they were heavy and they were fast, but they were wanting a little bit more extremity. They also wanted more of a darker theme to their music. So the music often has themes of mutilation, of violence and religion and nature, philosophy, science fiction. They're the overall arching, and horror movies and slasher films. They're the overarching main themes, but there are some deeper and darker genres that they jump into. Things like necrophilia. Those that don't know what necrophilia is, please ask someone. I don't really want to explain that on this program. You know, they talk about body mutilation. They talk about violence to women, violence to men, violence to... I mean, basically violence in every of its sordid and horrible forms. It comes in an atonal chromatic chord change. That's what it has in the back. That's what it mainly is. A lot of atonal chromatic chord changes, a lot of palm muting, a lot of tritone picking, blast beat drums. If you want to hear like the birth of it, go and have a listen to, as I said, Venom and Celtic Frost and Necrophagia. But then also go and have a listen to things like Napalm Death, because that's where we really will get. Later, Napalm Death really becomes sort of the tour de force for me of death metal, even though they probably don't rank themselves in that way, but I do. It was really heavily flooded the markets, I should say, in America and Florida. You had bands like Morbid Angel, Death, and Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, on great album record labels like Combat and Earache and Roadrunner. That's where they used to come when I was listening to them way back in the day. You know, I've gone on record and saying that I really dislike Cannibal Corpse live. One of the worst bands I've ever seen. I just wanted to walk away. I don't know whether they were having a bad day or I just didn't dig with it, but it wasn't great. I'll be honest with you. But I mean, I saw Deicide. I've told that story. I'll tell it again for new listeners. That my mate Melvin, Crazy Melvin, I had two mates called Melvin. Good Melvin, Crazy Melvin. And Crazy Melvin had a mate that worked for Roadrunner Records. And I think it was Roadrunner, it could be near Earache. I don't want to get that wrong, but one of those ones. Anyway, whoever Deicide is on. And Deicide was playing one of their first ever London gigs at the Astoria. And I went along. I was like 19. And there's me and Melvin, you know, long hair, the typical sort of... He was an ex-punk, so he had like all these bondage gear on and like his leopard skin and all that kind of crap. And he was or is a Mauritian, so he's like dark-skinned, and he's a crazy guy. One of the only true actual Satanists that I know, actually, or knew, I should say. Anyway, we turned up at the gig, and this guy, let's just call him Eric, because I can't remember his name, was there waiting for us. We had free passes in, and he had his backstage pass on, and he was wearing like a 3-piece suit, like a proper, like, you know, suit, white shirt, everything. And I turned to Melvin and I said, if he goes in there, he's going to get torn apart. I mean, I never saw him after we went in. Like, he let us in and that was it. I didn't see him afterwards again, or even ever again, really. It was just nice that we got the gig. But the gig was fascinating because Deicide was having troubles with the animal liberation people, because the lead singer had Glenn Benton had not just burnt an inverted cross into his forehead, that's hardcore, but he also boasted that he liked to chuck live puppies to crocodiles in the swamps where he lived, and all this crap. So I mean, I take it with a pinch of salt, but these animal liberation people were really quite at them. So they had this like a mesh around the stage between the band and us, and there were non-animal liberation people who were just were nutters, were chucking offal at the stage, and pigs' ears and snouts and trotters. It was just carnage. How they got you'd never get them into a gig now, right? But back then, I suppose you just put them in your jacket pocket. They weren't checking or your bags or whatever. But it was pretty out there. The thing about death metal as well, in all its different forms. So we're going to talk about the most extreme of it here, but it does have and is considered quite a misogynistic genre of metal, because you don't get a lot of females in it, and those you do, you don't really hear a lot of. I mean, in my opinion, Crypta, I know they're not death metal, they would consider themselves black metal, but they're an extreme metal band. Let's just say that as an overarching genre. They are the best out there. They really are. Fernando Lira vocals and bass is phenomenal. So they are out there, but it does have this overarching, tight jeans, and like the thing in Spinal Tap, where he's like, most of our audience are men, because the women are scared of, we've got monsters in our pants. That kind of stupid attitude. But there are other bands that, like Venom Prism, right, who write rape revenge lyrics that are really, quite narratively hard hitting, and have a real political and feminist standpoint. And Larissa Stupa, the vocalist, is just amazing. I saw them at Download, and it blew my mind. Really amazing live show. So as it goes, there are different types of the extremity, right? So no extremity is the same. Okay, as I said, it has themes like mutilation, Satanism, serial killers, mass murder, necrophilia, dismemberment, and the vocal styling in it puts a lot of people off. I read somewhere a very fascinating article about this, about the lead singer from Cannibal Corpse said they'll never be really big mainstream. It's not to do with the lyric or the vision or the concepts, because we live in a world where high violence in computer games and on TV and in cinema is actually quite accepted. It's more the musical. Atonal noise fest that you get from a death metal band, and also the vocals. Now let me just find this article. I'm going to read to you just quickly. Hang on. I'm going to try and read this word for word without sound like an idiot. Death metal vocals are referred to as death growls, which are coarse roars or snarls. Death growling is mistaken thought to be a form of screaming using the lowest vocal register known as vocal fry. However, vocal fry is actually a form of overtone screaming, while growling can be performed by this way by experienced vocalists who use the fry screaming technique. True death growling is in fact created by an altogether different technique. Growling has been called Cookie Monster vocals, with a tongue in cheek, due to the vocal similarity to the voice of the popular Sesame Street character of the same name. Although often criticised, death growls serve the aesthetic purpose of the matching death metal's aggressive lyrical content. Now, I've said this before and I'll say this again. If you don't like the kind of vocal that, say, Ralph is you'll hear on this album, you can put out of your mind that it is someone singing a lyric, although that would be disrespectful to my friend Ralph, because the lyrics are there for a purpose. But you can think of those growls another instrument. So if you are new to this kind of genre and you're listening to me for the first time, or just, not sure about it, go back and listen to my episode about this previously, but also as a recap, think of it as an instrumental album. Think of the vocals as a distorted guitar or bass, yeah, and you will get it is something that shouldn't work musically if you think about it. All these sort of descending, ascending, chromatic, atonal guitar chords, but also like we're so used to now in technical progressive metal and in modern progressive metal and in music in general. If it's well made, they don't just, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, off you go. They have journeys that take you through. So my new phrase for the year is journeys of music, and it takes you on a journey sonically. It never stays in one place. It will pull you apart. It'll put you back together, and then it will smash you apart again. And I think that people say that people that listen to this music are violent and antisocial, and that is a load of, and pardon my French when I say that, a fucking load of hogswash. Because it's been proven time and time again that people who listen to heavy metal usually have a higher intellect, higher intelligence. Now, the reason people are listening to this music is because we've all, in art, over our lifetime, all of us have been fascinated by mortality. Even those most Christian and religious of people will are fascinated by mortality because they believe that we're having an afterlife. People that listen to this kind of music and music similar to it, it's a way of releasing their pent-up energy. Bands, people go to festivals, metal festivals, death metal festivals, black metal festivals, heavy metal festivals. People get drunk. There's maybe a couple of broken noses because they jump in the mosh and don't know what they're doing. Some ripped clothing, but no one genuinely dies at these places, at these gigs. People go to EDM concerts and the music's so bad and so boring, they have to take drugs to enjoy it. And so they end up, and I'm not talking about a little bit of wacky weed, which you do get at metal festivals. I'm talking about, mind-altering hallucinogens that are very, very bad for you in every single way. And so they fuck you up, basically. But people do, young people, men and women, this is not a purely misogynistic form of music anymore. You go to death metal gigs and it's a big mixture of male and female. And they all just want to release that energy, that dark, pent-up, angry energy that all people have. All people, what age you are, there is a moment in you where you just want to reach out and scream, right? And this is the way, I think, for people like myself, and for people who love this and listen to this music, for that release. And the bands, for their release as well. Now, as Tony Doolin from Venom Inc. and people like that have said in the past, they're not writing songs to scare your grandmother or your parents. That is a bonus, of course, but they're writing songs of these themes because, let's be honest, it's an endless well, an endless what am I trying to say? Well, I don't know if I say well. Endless well of imagery, of emotion, of energy, of friction, subtlety. It's one thing to write a song like "Hallelujah, Praise the Lord," but there's another thing. There's only so many of those songs that you can sing, or you can write a song about. And same with love. There's only so many songs that the concept of love really you can do, because in our lives there is color, dark and shade and light and everything, but a lot of the time, and let's be honest, in the 20th and 21st century that we've lived in, and some of us more, a bit longer, you find that you find that there is more darkness, sadly, than there is light. And now there will people will say to you, and they'll say to me, well, then why don't we sing more, have more light songs that will banish the darkness? And yes, I'm all for that. I will chuck on a Blondie album. In fact, I listened to one this morning. I will listen to a bit of Bob Dylan. I will listen to, you know me, everything really. But there is something deeply primeval and primordial, and something quite Neolithic about the sounds, that the dark sounds that we make. Not talk about the lyrical content. I mean, I'm talking about the physicality of the music. Lyrically, of course, you could write Christian and religious positive messages into that music. Of course you could. It would be odd, but you could do it. I'm talking about the physical notation of the music, the way that the drums, the guitar, the keyboards, the bass, all come together in this sort of overflow from what happened when punk finished. And it has finished. Let's just be honestly truthful about that. In my opinion, anyway, true punk has finished in many years ago. But when that sort of faded into the back alleys of the music world, or was polished and cleaned via Green Day and all those sort of American bubblegum pop rock, punk bands, apart from that, it was just in the alleys, people that were still clinging onto this music, which I love. But it mutated, as all music does, and we end up with these forms of heavy metal. And death is one of those ones that is very diversive to people, and it can split people down the middle, really. It really does. I've got friends of mine that will just never consider listening to it, even though I explain, listen, use it as don't think about the vocals. Don't think about listening to someone like Halford or Dickinson. This is a different breed. You don't go into this music wanting to hear beautifully clear falsetto notes being held for 20 seconds and things like that. It's not the case. It's guttural, it's primeval, and when you see it live, and it was something live, it really is something. You come out, I'd lose a kilo in body weight, just in the sweat and the movement and the energy that the music gives off. Anyway, that's a quick run up and rundown of death metal. Like it or love it, hate it or loathe it, that's your bag, baby, as they say. It's got nothing to do with us. I don't want to change people's perceptions. I just want people to listen, open their mind, and try something different. There is a great, massive, wonderful world, as 200 episodes of my show will pay tribute to, that you can listen to everything and not be ashamed to listen to everything. It's been an interesting year for me, ladies and gentlemen. This year, so because I've already recorded the last 2 episodes, I won't be talking to you again until in the new year. So it has been a really fascinatingly difficult and interesting year, via both physically, emotionally, and musically. But we're going to end the year here, as I said, on a dark note, in this death metal album of Long Live the Rot by RotPit, because Christmas was always about horror stories. It's a fine old Victorian tradition that is a dead and dying art, sadly. Although I hope they should be bringing it back, I reckon. A nice winter's ghost story on a cold night over Christmas is something fantastic. Anywho, I'm going to go and have a rest now. I spoke for 23 minutes without having a break. And you'd say, well, Tony, you can do that for an hour without having a break. And it's possibly true, but you need a break from my voice. I know you do. You need to go and get a new drink. I do as well. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about Long Live the Rot RotPit's Extremity Classic that came out a few weeks ago on the 29th of November 2024, if you listen to this in the future. It is the new blood, in my opinion, and very apt when you're talking about death metal new blood. So you could do one of two things. You can stop listening now, that's fine. You can wait till after the adverts. Well, more than one or two things. You can then listen to the review of the album. You can go over to patreon.com/heavy metal tones and pay $2 a month and don't get any ads. And also, you can listen to the album first, which is available on all streaming platforms. And then when you come to listen to the review, you can see whether my views match with yours. Anyway, more than two, wasn't it? I can't count. That's like 4 things you can do. Enough from me. Bye for now. Talk to you on the other side. Cheerio, guys.
Bring the magic to every holiday gathering with help from Whole Foods Market. Decorate the table with their vibrant Winter Wonder arrangement, which also makes a great host gift. Preparing the big meal? Find great sales on no antibiotics ever New York strip steak and their new organic spiral cut bone-in ham. Want some help in the kitchen? Order catering at shop.wfm.com. Make Whole Foods Market your holiday party headquarters. Terms apply.
Decisions.
Wait a minute. Are you still looking for cars on Carvana?
Yeah, decisions.
When I used Carvana, I found the exact car I was looking for in minutes. Bought it on the spot.
Electric or full diesel? Decisions.
Come on, you've been at it for weeks. Just buy it already.
You're right. Crossover it is. Decisions decided.
Whether you know exactly what you want or like to take your time, buy your car the convenient way with Carvana.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of the show. I had to leave it for a day because remember I said earlier in the episode I was getting echo. I don't know what I did. I must have done something in the new interface and it was all over the place, and there's me spending half the day fiddling with it, and it turns out I just had the studio headphone section turned on when I didn't need it. The joys of amateur podcasting, right, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Anyway, as we discussed in the first half, this next one is a quick review of the new RotPit album, Long Live the Rot. I'm still waiting for my signed copy to wing its way. It's somewhere in the mail. I don't know where, but it's somewhere in the mail. Anyway, it came out on the 29th of November this year in 2024. If you're listening to this in the future, it was the 29th of November 2024. It consists of Ralph Hauber on vocals, my good friend, and one of my most I admire his vocals in extreme music the most. I don't know, it really hits the right spot for me. Johnny Peterson is on bass, effects, and guitar and composition. Yes, and on the drums, then you've got a new member, Eric Barthold. It's only a 3-piece band. They, as I said before, Ralph and Johnny have worked together on Heads for the Dead and they do all sorts of other things, revel in flesh and so on. But Ralph's got this voice, this ability to be completely and utterly diabolically dark and dank and filthy and extreme, but without sounding so bad that you can't hear what he is saying. I mean, I was talking to him the other day, and he said he felt like that his vocals are in a sea of extremity, and I was like, no, you don't push it. I told him that. I said, you tend to sing from the heart, and you know, he didn't originally start out as a singer. I think he was a guitarist, I believe, and you can go back to the interview I did with him. I will put the show note number when I do the show notes for this, the episode number where I interviewed Ralph, and he, you know, he tells you that he sort of fell into singing the long way, like a lot of us have done, and he just likes horror cinema, extreme music. You know, he's just one of those guys that you hear him sing and you think, my God, you know, what is he? Some kind of heathenistic, you know, Norwegian madman. But no, he's not. He's so I didn't mean that, Norwegian listeners. You know what I mean? He's not. He's a nice, centered, lovely guy. Loves his cat. Loves life. He just loves music. Loves making music. Loves living in the underground of the music industry, and I don't blame him. I think it's an amazing thing as well. So I said before at the beginning of this episode, if you think that the vocals are going to be too aggressive for you and too much for you, then take note and listen to them as if they're another instrument. Is really the key here, because if you tend to if you think that it's, so I'm moving the mic, if you think that you won't get the lyrics and you won't hear what they're saying, and you're a lyric kind of person like myself, I had to train my ear many years ago to just sort of allow myself to listen to this music, because it was a whole section of the music world where it was a bit of a dark realm for me. You know, I'd listened to early extreme music, but I hadn't gone into the later stuff. And so I like a lot of things in the musical world, I really want to take the journey, and I want to listen to everything. I don't want to get to the end of you know, this sort of little life of mine, and suddenly I haven't tried it because it scared me, or I was worried, or whatever the case may be. So you know, it can scare you, and it can be a little bit off-putting for those people that like their Sabbaths and their maidens and their priests. But I urge you, really do urge you to give it a go. You might find it very rewarding. You might find it the opposite, and you might shake a fist at me and tell me that it's an awful mess, Tony, what are you talking about? But I think if you jump into bands like Heads for the Dead, and I've read a couple of albums here on the show, and I've also written about them for magazines, you'll find that you'll get reward, because it's not the lyrical content of RotPit and of Heads for the Dead is a little bit more interesting than your usual, as I said before in the first half of the show, you know, mutilation, necrophilia, violence, all that. It's there, but it's a bit more meaningful. Now, the tracks all do tend to start and deal with rotting and rot and dankness and the sort of the decay of leaves and the forest floors. I said once about their albums. You get opens with Sewer Rot, then you've got Massive Maggot Swarm, you've got Long Live the Rot, which was the single, Eat or Be Eaten, The Triumph of Rot, Tunnel Rat, we've got Dirt Dwellers, Funeral Mock, We Rot, and then the outro. And it's 10 songs at 35 minutes long. So it's not hanging around. You haven't got to spend half your life trying to sort of get your head around this music. It's just in your face. It does have some rather interesting and icky sound effects that that they bring in to sort of create atmosphere, particularly in the opening and sewer rot, and it's a lot of like this sort of, you can almost hear the rats crawling over the dead flesh, and this, you can almost smell the reek of the decay through the album. That may not sound appetizing to a lot of you, and that I will understand. I understand that, but at the same time, isn't there great art in darkness? Isn't there great art in Bruegel and in Hieronymus Bosch? Reading Dante's Inferno it is quite a dark trip and journey when you read it. Even some parts of some great religious texts, and I'm not going to pick one in particular, will have dark and seethingly evil, interesting parts. Violence, and I mean, let's be honest, the Bible is all begat this and begat that, isn't it? And when you find out what begat means, you realise they're all begatting each other. Sorry. So we've always, as humans, as a species, particularly as we have grown as a species, looked onto the other side of our psyche, and we know what's good and we know what's bad, and when people don't know what's good and what's bad, that's when they're not right. But we know what's good and what's bad, not good. We know what's will trigger us, it will make us feel uncomfortable. But sometimes I feel, particularly in the music, in metal music, more aggressive, extreme forms of it, I like the way that it pushes to get triggered, to trigger. I really do. I think it's an emotion. As the great John Lydon said in Peel, anger is an energy. As I told my friend and my wife on the weekend, we were talking about these things, that anger is an energy like anything else. And this music, this sort of RotPit stuff and this extreme music, is not necessarily angry. Yeah, and there's I think something that goes hand in hand with people's imagine what they're listening to. They assume because the music is dark and heavy and is full of atonal chromatic chord changes and tremolo picking and all this sort of stuff, it doesn't mean the person creating it is angry by any means. Beethoven, Wagner, to name a couple, wrote very heavy compositions, but they weren't necessarily evil, angry men. It's just a way of expressing yourself and expressing your form of art. When you go to a gallery and you look at say like a Jackson Pollock, for instance, and there's all that energy coming through into the canvas, doesn't mean at that point that man was really angry. He's just full of energy, and energy goes in different ways, yeah. And it comes and it goes, and it weaves in and out of our lives, both positively and negatively. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. And listening to this album, I don't come to the end of this album, which I think is one of the best extreme albums of the year. Actually, it's coming up, is possibly one of my favorites here. It's I don't get out the other side and go, oh god, I've got to listen to some Peter, Paul and Mary, or I better put on songs of praise. For those in the UK listeners will understand what I'm saying, right? I don't need to suddenly cleanse my soul with pop music, by no means. In fact, of anything, it helps me sublimate the energy that I may have in me, that I want it to go and leave me, and it does leave me via the musical medium of bands like RotPit and Heads for the Dead and all those extreme bands. And it's also a way of people like Ralph and Johnny and such to to sort of pay homage. You don't have to be French to say homage, but it helps. Pay homage to the things that triggered their interests, and they love horror movies like a lot of us. Watching horror movies does not make you out to be a monster. You just like the emotion of being scared. You don't get on a roller coaster. Well, I don't get on them anyway, but you don't get on a roller coaster because you have no feeling. You get on the roller coaster because you want that arse clenching sensation of tension and fear. That's what you're going for. You're a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I think people that listen to this sort of music are almost like adrenaline junkies. And so this album sits beautifully in that area. I mean, Ralph will say it's extreme. I don't know if it's the right entry level for people. I deny that. I think the extremity in this is has a thing of beauty in it, particularly in tracks like "Long Live the Rot," which is got a fantastic vocal line by Ralph in it. The drumming on all tracks on this album is something insane because, like I said before, the speed of the drumming that you have to have in this form of music is not easy. It's very technical because you don't have swing to fall back on. It's pure speed, brute force, and of course, then you've got to sort of match in with the bass and the guitar, and the guitar itself would be tremendously difficult to set into because if you know this kind of music and you listen to it, there's a lot of these sort of, as I said, chromatic chord changes, and so the drummer, as a drummer, you'd have to be very, very tight armed. You're not going to be loose. I mean, I've talked about this before, like loose arm drummers and tight arm drummers, tight spaces. This kind of drumming is not an expansive Ginger Baker kind of splash around the kit. I've got 20 drums, here I go kind of drumming. It's a very pared down, aggressive punk style stab. Same with the bass. I really doubt that you could finger pick a bass. And I could be wrong here. As a bass player myself, I couldn't play those speeds with my fingers. I'd have to use a pick. Unlike black metal, where you can get away with it, someone like Fernanda Lira, I've mentioned before, it's an amazing bass player. You watch her, fingers the bass, no pick, and she plays some tremendously fast pieces of music. Myself, though, I think this is definitely a picked bass. This is their second album, by the way. Their first album came out a few years ago, and it's hard to track down physical copies, but they are definitely on Spotify and all streaming platforms. I should not just say Spotify. That is not fair. It's on all streaming platforms. Okay, the artwork is very much in tune with the musical content within the album. It does really sit to be in there quite beautifully, in a disgusting, dank and dark way. It's by they've worked with the same artist now for some time, and I've got patches and t-shirts. I've got a t-shirt coming actually from them, from the fantastic Ralph is sending them to me. The artist has a really interesting name. You have to, I mean, bear with me while I try and pronounce it correctly. Now I'm going to get this wrong. It's T. Cannibale Hayatima from Finland. I think T is for Tony, but with an I think. Anyway, it reflects the music quite beautifully, actually. There's lots of decay and skulls and maggots and what else can I say? It's old school kind of artwork. The sort of stuff, the underground stuff, like the punks used to bring to their artwork, and I absolutely love it. I love the freshness, that it's not airbrushed within an inch of its life. It looks hand-drawn but still professional. It really draws you into the album. Both the band's albums and all their artwork that he does for them is pretty fantastic. And it does add that sense of doom that you get mixed with this album, because even though this is a death metal album, it has real heavy doom overtones. I mean, I find that I find tracks like Massive Maggot Swarm, Eat or Be Eaten, all have a kind of a doom-esque overtones to them. Like Funeral Mock particularly feels quite doomish. It feels like Candlemass on acid, if that's a good enough, if that's a nice enough way of mentioning. I don't know if you can understand what I mean when I say by that. I'm going to give you some of the quick reviews that this has got. The best album has got. It's got says here, time for me to take a shower and then hit play again. Go check this beast out and blast your ears to bits. That was the Stepping Shaman in the UK. It's a great review, that one. Once you learn that the rot is more than a theme, it's a way of life, you get it. Death Sparrow from the US. And then someone's put here, death metal from another time. And that is absolutely true. It is an old school death metal. It's like the early stuff before it became all moved into weird different directions and sanitized and made it into sort of like prog and all that. It's just old school. Thick, heavy and massive, says Acta Infernalis from France. Old schoolies from metal in Germany. I don't know if I read that right. It's just a classic old school. It was recorded and mastered by Roger from Nevo Studios in Sweden. I think that the drumming on this by Eric Barthold absolutely allows the band to grow beyond their first album, because, as I said, you need a lot more technicality, and this gives the drummer and the bass player and the guitarist further to go. I mean, with the down-tuned guitars and the vocals, as I said, were heavier than before, but I think the vocals are, even though they're heavier than before, than Let There Be Rot, which was released in 2000 in November. Oh, sorry, yes, Rot Freak. These things, these albums, these singles, they all have one thing in common. It's that they have Ralph's vocals and Johnny's musical vision. But Ralph's vocals are something that makes this album. I've told him so many times that I personally think that he is underrated. He undersells himself, like all great artists. He undersells himself because, not being a trained vocalist in the traditional sense, I think he feels that there are other bands out there that do it better. And you know what? There might well be, but none of them are as passionate, in my opinion, and as gifted in that really guttural vocal styling as Ralph is in both Heads for the Dead and RotPit and Revel in Flesh, all of his projects, So, imagine the artwork. Imagine when you click on, the art will be on the little thumbnail for this show, but click and go to their Bandcamp site and have a look and see what's the sort of stuff that's happening. And it has a real sense of Return of the Living Dead, if you've seen that movie. That sort of 80s punk inspired madness that's dark yet fun, yet filthy, and it was really well put when they said you need to have a shower and go back to it again. That's so true, because it does have that gooey thing like nuance to it that you get with all those kind of squidgy horror movies of the 80s, 70s, and 80s. You know, that street trash kind of thing. You know, where multicolored gore and menacing, non-understandable storylines that have been edited so badly that, you know, one story blends to another, but you don't care because it's a roller coaster ride. When you get on a like this album, when you get on a roller coaster, I said I don't often, but I'm sure when you get on a roller coaster, you don't get on there and go, oh, I want this to be really simple and easy. I want this to do nothing for me. No, you get on it because you want the thrill. Yeah? You don't skydive because, oh, you know, you do it because you want the adrenaline rush. Same with bungee jumpers, same with all those sort of things, extreme sports. You do it. I was a marathon runner for many, many years, and I did ultra marathons. I didn't do it because, oh, well, it's something to do. I did it because it was always, even after 20 or so marathons in, you'd still find it a challenge. You still attack that run and that training for the thrill of it, for the you know, the feel at the end, the sense of accomplishment. And I think you get that in albums like Long Live the Rock, because you get to the end of it, and yes, sometimes it can be difficult if you're not used to this kind of music, but you get to the end and there's this sense that, oh yeah, man, that was amazing. I've got to the end of it, I'm going to do it again. What will I hear next time? I can honestly say, with hand on my heart, that there's a lot of you out there that are not going to make it through this album, and that is perfectly fine. That is not for me to judge you on, and that's not for you to judge yourself on, because it might be too sonically diverse for you. If you are an Aussie fan, a Priest fan, you know, you're listening to traditional heavy metal, I get it, because I love all of the genres. But I would say to you, make an effort, jump into that world and see. It might open up a vast new horizons to different worlds of this music, because it's not all like rock. The beauty of death metal is, particularly early style death metal like this, is it's not all the same. Like anything, one shade of red is not the same shade as another shade of red, if you know what I mean. So when you put it on, if it's not what you're looking for, but you like the idea of it, you will find something within the genre. With the many genres of the death metal subgenres, you might find something that you get melodic death, you get prog death, you get technical death, you know, you get blackened death. I mean, it's just crazy the amount of different types that are out there. This is my type. Right down ball. Honestly, if I had to put my balls on the line, it would be saying that this is the kind of thing that suits me, my ear and my palate, because I like traditional horror themed, aggressive and quite repulsive in some respects, death metal, right? But I also absolutely love Slayer, and they're more of the thrash band, but they sit in that death metal. You know, they sort of helped create it, as I said before. So, you know, you might jump in via there. You might jump in via Slayer. You might have already been listening to Slayer and I don't know if I can go any heavier. I suggest that you try Heads for the Dead first, particularly their last EP, which was a thing of wonderful. It's so creative and so forward thinking as an EP that I think you'll find that there. Go for the latest one. That's where I would start if you want, before you jump into this one. In the Absence of Faith was that one, and I think you'll find that you will be drawn in and you won't get away. I have reviewed that album on this show. I will put that number in the number in the links as well below, so you can go and have a listen to that one if you haven't. Start there. As I said, there's always an entry point into this kind of music. I don't want this album, in my mind, to be considered too elitist and too heavy for people to listen to if they're not used to it, because I think that's unfair to Ralph and the members of the band. I think it's unfair to say that I'm not attuned to that, so I can't try it. I think everyone can try everything. Will you appreciate it? Possibly not at every level. Will it make you move? Possibly not. You know, not all art is everyone's cup of tea, if you know what I mean. And I'm going to mix my metaphors there, but you know what I mean. Anyway, it's available on all streaming platforms. You can listen to it on Bandcamp. You can buy their stuff from Bandcamp. I highly recommend that you do reach out and buy stuff from them if you can, because it keeps small bands like this alive. One of the fears that I have is that one day wake up and they won't be there because there was no one buying their records, even though I love it. And that's a terrifying thought for most of us people who love underground music, because you worry that it will go away because they're not making any money. And let's be honest, people have to survive. They have to pay bills, they have to pay their mortgage, they have to pay their rent, they've got to eat. And they've got to work, sadly, to help create art. You know, they're not all Iron Maidens of this world. And even, you know, now, I mean, Iron Maiden struggled, of course, but you know what I'm saying when I mean like that. It's a difficult thing. So I want people to make an effort and to listen to it. Don't do it, you know, do make an effort, because you'll be rewarded. Maybe not with RotPit, maybe not, but certainly with underground music in general, underground extreme music as well, in all of its forms. It's just a fantastic community of all the people. You think that these will be all sullen, you know, seething madmen. No, they're not. They're lovely guys. You get together at go to an extreme metal festival, and the people are just so good. They all want each other to do well. They all want people to hear their music. They all want to create art. And is that not the main reason that we make music, is to make art? If we go out to make music to be millionaires, we're going at it the wrong way. It never works that way. It's a lovely byproduct of your art and the way that it blends with people's psyches and emotions, but it's not something that you can attain by chasing it. I don't think, anyway. So don't chase it. Make wonderful art like this. I'm going to stand on the table. Make wonderful art like this. This is a brilliant album. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to give 11 out of 10 because I just do. It's available on all streaming platforms. As I said, it came out on the 29th of November this year in 2024. It's only 35 minutes long. It's not going to take much time out of your life, and you might find you go on a journey of rot. And I absolutely enjoyed it. So bye for now. This is my last album review for the year. The next two episodes, as I said before, are going to be with Kevin Eustace from We Need to Talk About Ghosts and the Dark Paranormal, because he is my inspiration for podcasting. Don't send him death letters. No, death threats, I should say. He's a really decent guy. He's wonderful to talk to. We go on all sorts of ups and downs, ins and outs, different kinds of conversations. Music, local music, Beatles, you know, rock music, ghosts, living in Liverpool, being a podcast producer and content maker, how we deal with reviews and bad reviewers and all this sort of stuff. I didn't edit it. I only had to edit it in the middle so I could get one episode into 2 hour episodes. If you want to hear both of them back to back, you can do so by joining Patreon at patreon.com heavy metal tones. That's patreon.com/heavy metal tones. And for $2 Australian a month, you get ad-free episodes and things like this when I release them back to back. So both the Christmas Day and the New Year's Day episodes will be released to podcast to the Patreon supporters on the same time, on the same day. So if you want that, you feel like that's what you want, something to do, a little bit of that, jump in, give it a go. If you know someone who would like to give it to as a present, it's not an expensive present to give someone a podcast, you know, to do this for them, because I benefit and they benefit. So yeah, if you're thinking of ideas for Christmas, that could be the way. Who knows? Anyway, Merry Christmas, guys. Ho, ho, ho. Keep safe. Keep rocking. And I'll talk to you in the new year, I'm sure. Bye for now.
Bring the magic to every holiday gathering with help from Whole Foods Market. Decorate the table with their vibrant winter wonder arrangement, which also makes a great host gift. Preparing the big meal? Find great sales on no antibiotics ever New York strip steak and their new organic spiral cut bone-in ham. Want some help in the kitchen? Order catering at shop.wfm.com. Make Whole Foods Market your holiday party headquarters. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/ACAST and use code ACAST for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/ACAST and use code ACAST at checkout.